Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, welcoming my listeners wherever or whenever you listen to the show, whether it's live, whether it's the other side of the world in different time zones. Welcome to episode 228 of Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. Yeah, 228. That number keeps growing. Anyway, a lot to talk about today. I've got a pile of notes here, and I don't even know yet again if we can get to everything, but I'll do my best. And just looking forward to lots of interesting information to pass on to you. And remember, the objective of this show is to share information with you that you share with your friends, acquaintances, enemies, whatever, but we need to get the message out. November is coming, and we need to make sure that people are aware of what is good in our politics, what is bad, and make their decisions accordingly. We're not going to tell them how to vote, but present the facts and let them decide for themselves. And in most cases, we know where the facts will lead us. Have to say tonight, again, welcome from the left coast, aka the People's Republic of California, although I'm being a little disparaging there perhaps. I have to say there are signs of hope. Recently we see more and more Hollywood elitists standing up and saying either that Obama is wrong or doing the wrong thing, hasn't done enough of what he should have, or even better, that conservative values are good and that a lot and coming out in support of conservative politicians. So people are beginning to realize that just towing the left-wing party line doesn't need to happen. I was even surprised when I checked into my hotel this Sunday evening. The lobby TV was showing Fox News Channel, and that in California. Well, hope indeed for this state. So what's been going on in the world? I think one of the less reported, at least didn't have much of a fuss, which surprised me, was the fact that the CIA admitted to spying on people in the Senate. I think both senators, but specifically Senate staffers, had their computers hacked, and the CIA was looking into that. Well, folks, I talk a lot about government overreach and the illegality. Let's face two things here. First of all, just the word spying is that says it all. The government, whichever branch of government, should not be spying on us, and they shouldn't be spying especially on our legislators. I mean, that's so spying is bad. I guess spying on legislators in some way is even worse. Why would they even do that? But the third point that I felt was missed by a lot of the when it did get reported very sparingly in the LSM and a little bit on Fox News, nobody actually said that the charter of the CIA is to look after security outside of the US. They are not supposed to operate in the United States. That's part of the CIA charter. But as we see, this administration, lawlessness is the order of the day. They don't care what the law, what the Constitution says. They just go ahead and do whatever they want. So, folks, we've got to send some messages in November, and we've got to say we've had enough of this kind of stuff. And I hope you'll agree with me. And as I said, get the message out to your friends, acquaintances, enemies, whatever, people in the bus queue, people in line in the shop, people in the movie queue. We all have to make sure that they are aware of what the issues are, and hopefully by presenting the facts to them, they will take the right decision when they go to the ballot box. Okay, before we go to the next topic, just want to remind folks, if you are listening live and you want to participate by communicating with other listeners who are listening live, or by sending questions or comments to me, you can do so in the chat room. And I see that Paul has arrived in the chat room, one of my regular listeners. Welcome, Paul. The chat room is a little green bubble at the bottom right hand part of the screen, and click on that in an open little window, and you'll see, as I said, other listeners. You can chat amongst yourselves. You can put comments and questions for me, and I will try and answer them during the show, both on the air and also by typing in. Tend to do the typing during the commercial breaks, so bear with me if I don't immediately answer your question. And if I'm going to do it on the air, I will normally wait till the end of a topic as well. But like I said, bear with me. I will try and get to your things during the show. Okay, folks. So that was the CIA spying, and like I said, I was just surprised how much of a shock went through the country on learning that. But I think nobody's shocked by this stuff anymore. It's almost as if we expect it to happen, which is a very sorry state of affairs. And there's the sound for a change of topic. And the next topic that I want to talk about is about government overreach, and how sometimes in the guise of doing good or doing the right thing, the regressives in DC are using our conscience to actually generate a larger and larger government, more federal nannying, more federal control of our lives. And it's all done under the guise of, well, this makes sense, what we're proposing. This is a good idea. But nobody actually goes back to look at the constitutionality of what is being suggested. They just say, oh yeah, that's a good idea, let's pass a bill for that. And this concerns the following. A bipartisan group of 8 U.S. senators. So, maybe we should say, well, finally we got a bipartisan thing coming up, because it seems that they can never talk. Well, we've got a bipartisan group of U.S. senators unveiling legislation aimed at holding colleges more accountable for preventing and for dealing with sexual assaults that occur on campus. So you sort of say, well, that makes sense. We don't want our young girls, and it is primarily around girls, of course. We don't want our young girls being sexually assaulted, so we have to make the colleges do something about it. That seems like that seems like a fair thing to do. And the lawmakers, led by Claire McCaskill of Missouri, parentheses open, D, parentheses closed, and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York, parentheses open, D, parentheses closed, said the bill responds to a national problem of campus sexual assault and the publicized cases of colleges mishandling investigations. If you are a young woman who goes to college, you are more likely to be sexually assaulted than if you didn't, Gillibrand said. The price of a college education should not be that 1 in 5 students is sexually assaulted. Now, is that 1 in 5 total students or 1 in 5 women students? That 1 in 5 figure, by the way, it is widely quoted by people obviously supporting this bill, but it is questioned by some. Anyway, so then there's a whole list of things that the colleges should do. They should conduct anonymous surveys of students about their views of sexual assault. The result of these climate surveys would then be published online for prospective students to see, and then that would kind of give you a measure of how likely someone would be to be sexually assaulted at a college, and would allow, if you like, the free market, which is a good thing obviously, to decide which colleges flourish and which don't. In other words, if they actively take measures to stop sexual assaults, they go down in the college. That will make them more attractive. More people will go there. If they don't do that, they have a lot of assaults. People won't want to go there. The White House had actually recommended these evaluations, but the bill would make them mandatory. Now, so there's the first thing. The bill would make them mandatory. But I'll come back to that in a moment. Let's see. So McCaskill said the goal is to gauge the actual prevalence of sexual assault or other troubling behaviors, right? So as if these sort of opinion polls, because that's really what they come down to, would do that, rather than rely only on the number of reported incidents for such a widely underreported crime. So, well, I can agree. A lot of people who are sexually assaulted don't want to report it for whatever reason. They're embarrassed, etc. But would these sort of anonymous opinion polls, would that really make a big difference? I don't know. Now, one of the co-sponsors of the bill, Senator Marco Rubio, said that providing the information to the public is key for students choosing amongst colleges. Well, let me say, shame on you, Mr. Rubio, or Senator Rubio, I guess I should call you. Shame on you. You were elected with a very strong Tea Party backing, who sent you to Washington, D.C. to uphold the Constitution. You are not upholding the Constitution with this bill. As I said at the beginning, oh yes, the idea is very, very laudable. Yeah, let's make colleges safer for girls going there. However, let's go back and read the Constitution. Where in the Constitution does it say that the federal government would be responsible for the safety of people on colleges? I can't find it in the Constitution. Can you? No. So, if it's not in the Constitution, what does the Constitution say about that? It says those things which are not specifically, and I'll paraphrase here, which are not designated to the federal government, remain the purview of the states and of the people in the states. In other words, while this is, as I said, a very laudable idea, yes, we've got to make colleges safer for young girls, it shouldn't be the federal government doing this. It should be the state governments creating this kind of legislation. So Senator McCaskill, I hope that she actually, in the upcoming election, she's being challenged. I hope that she does lose her seat, and maybe she'll go back to the state government in Missouri, and in Missouri, then she can have Missouri pass such legislation, because it should be done at the state level. Basically, it's more nanny state, right? They have to run these opinion polls. They call them climate surveys, but basically they're opinion polls. It also requires that the colleges designate a confidential advisor who will help coordinate support services and accommodations for victims. They would have to provide special training for the personnel who handle sexual assault cases on their campuses. So those expensive college educations that we have become even more expensive. And the colleges would face stiffer financial penalties for mishandling sexual assault cases. The new measure would allow the Education Department to impose a fine as high as 1% of a college operating budget. Okay, so now our expensive college educations become even more expensive. So, folks, like I said, everybody, all the different activist groups say, oh, this is such a good thing, yada, yada, yada. And it is. I don't disagree that it's a good thing, but what's wrong is that it's being done by the federal government and not being arranged at the state or local level. And the colleges have sort of the senior vice president for government public affairs at the American Council on Education, basically the lobbying group for colleges. On balance, this is a pretty heavy-handed approach that starts with an assumption that more detailed federal requirements will solve this very difficult problem of campus sexual assault. I agree. It's not going to. Now, you might think, well, these senators, especially McCaskill and Gillibrand, are doing it for the good of the people. No, because they're standing up there and saying, look at us, how good we are to introduce this kind of legislation. Vote for me when the next voting comes up. I think in November for McCaskill. Gillibrand has got a few more years to go. But vote for me because I introduced this great legislation. That's really what it's about. Okay, anyway, folks, I see it's time to take a quick break, so stick with me. I will be right back after these messages.
Patriot come lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Attention! Have you been in a serious automobile accident? Then you need to call our attorneys now. We specialize in helping our clients get compensated for major auto injuries. If you've been in any type of car or motorcycle accident and you've been seriously injured, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation. Our attorneys have recovered millions and millions of dollars for injured clients. There are no out-of-pocket costs to you ever. We only receive a fee when we win your case. We are available 24/7. If you've been in an accident and been seriously injured, make this free call to our attorneys now. Call the Personal Injury Center at 800-634-1315. 800-634-1315. 800-634-1315. That's 800-634-1315. This ad is paid for by participating member law firms. We are not an attorney referral service. Representation may not be available in your state.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And thank you for sticking with me through that break. As I like to say, I have to pay the rent, so if you need any of the services in the commercials that run on this show, please do make use of the 800 numbers there. That helps support the show. And I would like to remind folks, please tell your friends about the show. We need to get these messages out as much as possible before the November election. So please tell them about the show, whether it's the live location, right, Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Pacific through 11 p.m. Eastern, depending on which time zone you're in, but basically all starting at the same time. Or if you're listening to some of the rebroadcasts that occur on Red State Talk Radio, that great conservative network, or the terrestrial stations that rebroadcast the Red State Talk Radio network as well, you may be listening through the archives link, archives.patrickcomelately.us, and you can catch all the shows there, past shows as well. Many different ways to listen to the show, but like I said, share that with your friends. Let's get the message out. And I do have to thank all of my listeners. Forgot to do that at the top of the show, but I'd like to do it now. At last month's statistics on Red State Talk Radio, I discovered that thanks to all my listeners that listen via Red State Talk Radio, I have come back, managed to get back into the top 5 most listened shows in terms of average. I'm only broadcast 3 or 4 times a week by Red State Talk Radio, but they do a calculation of the number of listeners divided by the number of shows that are rebroadcast, and I was in the top 5. In fact, I was actually in the top 3. I was number 3 this last month, which I'd like to thank my listeners for. I'm very proud of that. I found out with this broadcasting that the ratings, the numbers, the number of listeners, that it's like a drug. It's something you want to get as much of as possible, and so like I said, the more listeners the better, both for me, but I think also for you and also for the country, because we need to get this message out. Want to also say hi to Rex, who's in the chat room. Been talking about a number of things. He mentioned his 2 gorgeous daughters, but he's never sent any pictures. And he also had a question about the book that I'm editing for my father, who passed away last year. Rex, it's coming along. I'm about 80% through now, but it's a long slog. But these flights to and from California are a great opportunity to have 4 hours uninterrupted time to work on the book. Okay, let's get back to the news. That's a little bit of personal stuff there. But let's get back to the news. And again, a new topic, and want to talk about something I read in the National Review Online, and this is a new old regime. This is talking about the regime's use of executive edict, or otherwise known as executive orders. The fact that King Barry is using that in a much, let's say, I'm looking for the right words here, a much stronger degree than any prior president. The left loves to shout, oh, but Bush or Clinton or whatever actually signed far more executive orders. But that's not the point. It's not the number of executive orders. It's the importance, it's the seriousness of them. And King Barry has really pushed the limit, and is probably intending to push the limit. The rumors are still, very strong that he may sign some executive order that would effectively give as many as 5 million people amnesty, 5 million illegal aliens amnesty. Well, that's unbelievable. But this article says the practice of rule by decree is of dubious constitutionality, and Obama is extending it to breaking point. However, the practice is not without precedent. The precedent, however, is the prerogative power claimed in the past by the British king. It's the power against which the British revolted in the Glorious Revolution of 1688, and which the British, as they were at the time, also revolted against it again in 1776, to then become Americans. So there's a professor, Philip Hamburger, came with a serious work of legal scholarship on the return of the prerogative power to our government, which is exactly what they're doing. And he says this is coming in the form of what's called administrative law, which reflects the agency form of government that we have now. We don't have individual representatives. We have agencies that actually govern us, the administration, the regime. And so Professor Hamburger wrote a book and tried to explain, and he means for us to understand what we have lost or are losing. And we are losing our freedom. We know that. We know that. He says increasingly Administrative law has extended its reach to individuals. The entire society, therefore, now has opportunities to feel its hard edge, because he said initially administrative law was felt mostly by corporations. It was designed, so regulations were designed to affect corporations. But nowadays it's being extended to people. And the writer of the article says his assessment of the proliferation of administrative law is, where am I? It's an understatement, right? He says, so the writer says, formal administrative law, basically the regulations that are generated by the alphabet soup of federal agencies, dwarfs the laws enacted by Congress. Of course, the big example that everybody quotes on that one, the Affordable Care Act, runs for about 2,800 pages, which in of itself is absolutely ridiculous, right? And as that nutcase Nancy Pelosi said, we would have to pass the bill to find out what was in it. Well, what was in it was actually more than 10,000 printed pages of regulations that are associated with the Unaffordable Care Act. About 30 times in length, in words, of the law passed by Congress. So that's 30 times more regulations than the law that generated. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. The agencies send out regulations, and these regulations have the binding force of law, yet nobody has voted on them. Congress created the law, but then the agency goes and works out the details. They are not elected, they are appointed people, and we see with the IRS is filled up with people who hate conservatives, who hate the right wing. So what do you expect to get out of that? I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous, and we have to do something about it. Now, here's some history. You want to know about agencies? Anybody want to have a guess as to which the first agency was that was established? I have to admit, I didn't know it, but I found out it's the Interstate Commerce Commission, the ICC. However, that was just one, and that was established in 1887, so that's a while back. But the writer of the article says the agency form of government came into its own in the Progressive era, which is basically Woodrow Wilson, so the first time around the First World War, and then just before the Second World War, obviously when the New Deal was enacted because of the Great Depression, and it was supposedly something new under the sun, an adaptation of Republican government to the modern age. The Administrative Procedure Act, which was passed in 1946, formalized the triumph of the agency form of government. In other words, since 1946, that's when we've been under the heel of Washington. But Professor Hamburger said it's not new at all. It's something antique and retrograde, dating back to the early Middle Ages, because agency government is what the King of England did at that time, and also monarchies elsewhere in Europe. Basically, they would set up departments, they would appoint people to take decisions on their behalf and not have anything to do with people that that had been elected, etc. No, it was the king's choice. So when the United States was founded, the Constitution was carefully designed to try and prevent a return to this administrative law. But unfortunately, it wasn't written strongly enough, or the people that came afterwards did not adhere. Hamburger contends it's a form of government that is fundamentally unconstitutional, unlawful, and illegitimate. And if you go back to the Federalist Papers, etc., you'll see that the Founding Fathers would agree with that. Finally, the writer of the article asks, well, who is Philip Hamburger and why is he saying these things? Hamburger is not some rabble-rouser, Tea Partyist or anything like that. He holds an endowed chair at Columbia Law School. Yeah, one of the paragons of the left wing, Columbia Law School. He's a distinguished scholar specializing in legal history. He's the epitome of respectability. And he is saying that the way the government is going, and this is irrespective of whether it's R or D, is illegal, unconstitutional. Well, if he says it, then guess what? What we've been saying all along is absolutely true. Okay, folks. Time to have some more commercials, and I will be back, as I like to say, in just a couple of minutes.
Reporting from the eye of the storm. This is the worst weather we've seen in quite some time, folks. And I don't see any end in sight. People have been calling in from across the state complaining their basements are flooding. One guy said he now has an indoor swimming pool in his basement. I told him he needs the waterproofing innovations from Basement Systems. If you want a dry basement or crawl space that will weather any kind of storm, you need the patented solutions from Basement Systems. You've seen them on home makeover shows throughout the country. With a lifetime warranty, every solution is custom designed for your basement. Call now for a free estimate, and you'll never have to worry about storms like these again. I'm predicting this storm front is heading your way, so call Basement Systems and relax.
Call 800-205-8665 for your free in-home inspection, or visit basementradiooffer.com. That's 800-205-8665, or visit basementradiooffer.com.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call. But I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-750-5371. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-750-5371. That's 877-750-5371.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. Hey folks, this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, welcoming you back to the second half of the show. Thank you for listening, whether you're listening live, whether you listen to the rebroadcast via Red State Talk Radio, whether you listen to the archives at archives.patrickcomelately.us, or whether you pick up the recording. You can actually also go to radio.patrickcomelately.us. If you go when the show is not being broadcast live, you can still pick up the recordings of prior shows at that site as well. And as I was saying earlier on, please share these different addresses with your friends. We need to get all the messages out there as much as possible. We've got a lot of work to do before the November elections, and let me remind you as well, do what you can. Find your local GOP chapter, ask how you can help. Phone banks, knocking on doors. Money is always welcome, but there's a plethora of things that you can do without necessarily giving money. You just need to have some time available, more or less depending on what you do. But every minute, every dollar counts and helps. We have to take back the Senate. It would be great if we could do it with 66, end up with 66 seats in the Senate. I don't think that's going to be likely, but we have to take back the Senate. We have to get rid of Harry Reid. I mean, right now, Democrats, just a few years ago were saying, well, Republicans are the party of no. There are 300 bills sitting on Harry Reid's desk that he refuses to bring to the floor for an open up and down vote. They always say, well, the Republicans never want to bring things for an up or down vote. He has 300 bills, talking about, the fact that the left says, oh, well, executive orders, Obama hasn't done as many. Well, bills being set on the or shoved into a drawer on Harry Reid's desk, 300, that is a large number, and that is something that they shouldn't be proud of, and we need to get rid of Harry Reid. Okay. So I think now is time for another topic. And this topic, I think, needs an extra little soundbite. Because this one is really going to make the blood spurt out of your head. So make sure you've taken your blood pressure meds, because this is really going to be terribly disgusting. Okay. At a meeting last week, emergency managers in the Rio Grande Valley region addressed the reality that, in addition to picking up the tab for putting up immigrants, illegal immigrants, the actual posting didn't have that, but let's call them what they are, illegal immigrants, they have also accepted responsibility for their safety. Again, so we couch in and saying, yeah, well, if we're looking after them, we have to keep them safe. This means ensuring illegal aliens will have a safe evacuation from temporary and permanent shelters during an emergency. So they have set up, places for them to stay, but the question is, will they be able to withstand the wind? Are they able to withstand floodwaters so that they can get relief to them? So the coordinator of the emergency managers in this Rio Grande Valley was worried that if a hurricane or another emergency hits, the evacuation of some 4,000 illegal aliens could be impeded by citizens also trying to reach safety. Now we begin to... So he said, one way to ensure that the illegals remain safe is to evacuate them before the general population receives evacuation orders. Valley city leaders have concluded. The entire valley detention areas will be evacuated first, said Goldsmith. In other words, before the public gets their mandatory evacuation, the plan is to get all these unaccompanied women and children out of the valley into safer ground. In other words, folks, and that's why I said this would cause the blood to spurt out of your eyes. In other words, they are putting illegal aliens ahead of U.S. citizens and saying we have to make sure that they're safe before our own U.S. citizens are going to be told to evacuate. Folks, this is absolutely despicable. We should take Goldsmith and his other emergency managers in the Rio Grande Valley and railroad them out of town, throw them across the border and let them go sit in Mexico and get them out of this country, because they are basically being traitors to the American citizens in this country. Yes, they are being traitors. That they're putting illegal aliens ahead of U.S. citizens. And as you know, I am a legal immigrant, so without the IL in front of legal, and this, I came through the front door, I went through the process. This absolutely sickens me. I think it's despicable, and I don't understand how people actually stand up for this, and nobody takes any action. We should be throwing these bums out of these emergency manager positions, just as we should throw half of Congress out as well. Really gets my goat. Okay, but have to. Well, I'm not sure that we can. That I can lower my blood pressure for the rest of the show, but we'll have a look and see what the next topic brings. I mentioned earlier that Dear Leader has, or at least the White House has been dropping hints that Dear Leader is going to use his pen to generate some executive orders that basically will give amnesty to a number around about 5 million is the number that they're hinting at, which actually probably means it's going to be closer to 7 or 8 when it actually comes out. They're just putting that 5 million kind of condition people, but when the number actually happens, it's going to be much higher. I mean, let's face it, they talk about all these children coming across the border, but it turns out the majority of them are probably 15 years and older, and the majority of them are male. So there's a lot of gang members, etc., coming across the border and looking for the permiso, right? The piece of paper they get to appear in court, which they seem to think gives them the right to stay in America, because nobody comes after them if they don't appear in the immigration court. So, like I said, there are these rumors about Obama wanting to have a unilateral amnesty. In other words, write the law as an edict, act as a king, as a petty dictator. Dan Pfeiffer, one of the conservative, or Republican commentators, said any such move would promote a major clash with congressional Republicans, and at least some White House officials appeared to relish the prospect that the GOP might overreach in its response and act in a politically self-destructive manner. Yeah, King Barry sees this as a win-win situation. First of all, he can push through something which Congress hasn't wanted to do, so he can do that, acting unilaterally, as I said, like a dictator. But on top of that, there's a likelihood that the GOP will mishandle this and will do themselves damage. So Pfeiffer says when the decision is announced, it will increase the angry reactions from Republicans, because let's face it, Republicans are getting fed up with his unilateral decisions, and Boehner has promised that they will sue, although he said we're not going to impeach. But Pfeiffer thinks that it's not impossible that Republicans would seek to impeach Obama over such a major immigration move. And of course, the left love this, because they apparently already raised over $4 million by sending out emails saying we need your support because King Barry is going to be impeached. Now, the Republicans are saying, no, we're not going to impeach, we're not going to impeach. But if he did something that serious, it's quite likely that that many would say that. So, what's going to happen there? I think that, King Barry is looking at this, as I said, it's a win-win. Number one, he can do what he wants. It will also set a precedent when he wants to do other things. People will be used to it, just to say, what can we do about it? So we have to find a way of doing it. And quite frankly, it's quite easy. But the Republicans are never ready to do so. If he were to do that, they should just say, okay, we're going to cut off funding, and not just cut off funding in general, cut off for specific departments, and just tell them to get lost in specific departments. They can do that. They just never seem to have the cojones to do so. And then, of course, Obama will do all those despicable things like he did by shutting down the national parks and throwing out our veterans out of the open parks, right? Putting fences up, which probably costs more money than to actually leave them open. Just that whole negative thing. But we have to have a positive. We have to do something. We have to find something very positive that we can do, but part of it is going to be to use the power of the purse. I mean, this, and I know that King Barry says, Congress won't work with me. No, we've sent 3 bills to the Senate, and Harry Reid, who works closely with Obama, is refusing to pass them. So excuse me, Mr. Dictator, it isn't just that people don't want to work with you. You don't want to work with us. And the Republicans complain that he never comes to Congress. He never comes to discuss things and ask people how they could best work. He just sits there aloof and says, my way or the highway. Well, he's an a-hole, as our dear friend of the IRS called the Republicans. But again, this is just remember, it's always a projection of what they are themselves, and they are a-holes, and he is the a-hole in chief. Okay, folks, time for my last commercial break, so please stick with me, and I will be back in a moment.
Patriot come lately. British by birth, American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Boy, man, I had a rough night's sleep. Boy, whew, I got a letter from the IRS yesterday and I just couldn't sleep. Man, I'm dying here. Somebody help me.
IRS problems affect more than just your finances. If you're ready to take back control of your life and you owe more than $10,000, you need to call the Tax Doctor. Their expert staff can immediately protect you from the IRS and state collectors and get you the best possible tax settlement guaranteed. The IRS has recently released new programs geared in helping struggling taxpayers, where you may qualify to settle your tax debt and wipe out up to 85% or more of what you currently owe. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, call the Tax Doctor right now. See if you qualify to pay less. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. Again, 800-917-8546.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And thanks for sticking with me through that break. Folks, we're into the last segment of the show. Time always flies when you're having fun. And just looking in the chat room here, Rex has been very generous. So Paul, if you're still listening, take him up on his offer. It's well worth. And I've in the chat room I gave you a suggestion as to which book you should take him up on. That first one in the series, it's a great series, but start at the beginning and learn all the characters in the book. They are great. They're great books. They're a really interesting read, and I've always enjoyed them. And I'm looking forward to the next book, Rex. And also, I'll also take you up on your offer. I might send you a copy of where I am with my own novel. I'm just about 80% through my dad's in editing, but I might send you mine and just see what you think of that. I'm about 60% through there, 50, 60, so a lot to go. But yeah, it'd be nice to get somebody's comments on that. And it does need some tidying up, but if you can kind of look at the gist of it, that would be great. Anyway, let's see. We've got this final segment, so very quickly. One more topic, I guess. Got about 3 or 4 minutes to go. And the next one I wanted to talk about was spying. We talked earlier about the CIA spying on the Senate, and I said there are all sorts of reasons why that was wrong. But there are more departments that spy on people. And again, just basically ignoring the law, ignoring the things that they should do. This time it turns out it was that great bastion of the administration's good works, the Veteran Affairs. Some congressional staffers were investigating the data falsification and whistleblower retaliation at a VA regional office in Philadelphia. And they were given a workspace in which to work, which had microphones turned on and video cameras recording everything that was happening. Can you imagine that? So they were spying on these congressional staffers that were collecting information. I mean, sometimes, words just fail me as to how they can even think of doing that. Are they really so corrupt? I mean, this is just pure out and out lawlessness, corruption. Like I said, I'm totally lost for words. But let's see what else they had. Committee investigators also glimpsed a notebook used by the agency's regional director that bore written instructions, so probably emails or memos, whatever, to ignore their requests for information. In other words, the Senate sent these people here to investigate. The Department of Veteran Affairs works for us and is monitored by Congress on our behalf, and they basically said ignore any requests for information. People. Yes, I'm just speechless. I'm absolutely speechless. So the regional director said, well, this is totally wrong. This should never have happened. But one of the representatives that was in that committee, Jeff Miller of Florida, said, your commitment is appreciated but not believed. And he said he was shocked by the directives from the VA officials to ignore congressional investigators. Shocked? He should be hauling them into court and suing them. That's what we should do. We should be imprisoning these people. They are breaking the law. What's happened to this country? You break the law, you go to prison. But these people just break it left, right, and center. Nothing happens to them. This is absolutely unbelievable. So, also, when the one of the staffers glimpsed the laptop, I think they said it was in a bathroom or something. They saw this comment that the people should ignore the congressional staffers, but on top of that was also circled at the top of the page with the names of two whistleblowers who were cooperating with the committee. Well, you know what that means. They knew who they were, and those people are going to be given hell. So, this is... the head of the department, not the regional director, said, I will not excuse it. Without question is unacceptable. And that's when Representative Miller said, your commitment is appreciated but not believed. So the boss of the regional office, who was a lady, Lucy Filipov, and this is Mr. Hickey, he's her boss. The committee just said, we don't believe you, basically. I mean, that is, and they're quite right. I mean, it's just absolutely unacceptable that a U.S. department would act in this way. And I said that Lucy Filipov should be arrested and put in jail. We need to set some examples. We need, right? The IRS, there's 2 or 3 people there, need to go to jail. We need to set an example. The EPA overreaching. We need to take some people, put them in jail. There is so much going on and nothing ever happens to those people. We really need to take clear action and tell them, hey folks, you cannot get away with this anymore. But will it happen? Well, folks, don't hold your breath. The only way to help it happen is to work hard and make sure that we change the composition of Washington. Let's get both House and both the House and the Senate in Republican hands and start sending stuff to King Barry's desk and see what happens there. Okay, folks, it's time to say TTFN. Thank you for joining me this week, And just a final reminder, if you like the show, tell your friends. If you don't like the show, tell your enemies, but tell folks, please. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide. So please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.